You should not fill your shop with tools. Wait a minute, that's crazy. Everybody wants to fill their shop with tools. That's like the whole point. Huh. Well, stick around and we'll talk about that. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of DP Shop Talk. Now today we're going to talk about why you shouldn't fill your shop with tools. Now I know that sounds a little weird and a little counterintuitive, but I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Now I've been woodworking for over 20 years now. I've had 5 different shop spaces of my own, and I've worked for an additional 2 commercial shops. So over the course of that 20 years and 7 different shop spaces, I've come to learn what I'm going to share with you today as one of my top shop tips. So in a nutshell, what it really boils down to is leaving as much clear open space in your shop as possible. So let's take a look at the reasons around that and how I came to learn that the hard way. So we'll start off with the shop that I really learned this concept in and the mistake that I made in laying it out. So 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to custom design and build from the ground up my dream shop. Now the shop space itself was amazing. It had wood frame floors, nice high ceiling, electrical outlets everywhere I needed them, lots of natural light and windows, and the space was very nicely finished inside. So it was a very enjoyable space to work in, and I definitely miss it. Now the mistake that I made was in how I laid it out. Now, every tool had its own dedicated space and infeed and outfeed space, and all of that was great, but I spread everything out to take up pretty much the whole space. Now, I had lots of space to move around and use the tools and the benches, so the tool layout itself was very functional, but what I didn't have was clear open space. So when it came to assembling cabinets or other projects, I didn't have anywhere to put them that wasn't in the way of something else. The same problem happened when I had a bunch of rips of sheet goods to deal with or other project parts. I didn't have anywhere to stand them up or stack them that wasn't in the way of something else. So over time, I found this to be very inefficient in my workflow. And in the 3 shop spaces that I've had since then, I've addressed this problem. So the solution to not having enough clear open space in your shop is to make your tool layout as efficient and as compact as possible, as well as making some compromises in how many of your tools have their own dedicated space. Now, as many of you know, I just moved into this new shop space at the end of 2017 and just finished getting it set up. So as you can see, there's a good sized open clear space here. Now, I'm not talking about the actual physical size of the clear space because that depends on the size of your shop. If you have a bigger shop, you can have a bigger space. If it's a smaller shop, it's smaller. So it's going to be proportional to the size of the shop that you have, but the point is to maximize that space that's clear and open. Now, I could have easily spread out everything that I have to take up this whole space like I did in the other shop that I showed you, but I've kept everything pushed back to the walls with a more compact, efficient layout so that this space out here can stay open. So the table saw I set up here next to the wall rather than out in the middle like I had in the other shop that I showed you. Now, tools like the router table, the assembly/outfeed table, the MPT, the miter saw, the band saw, they're all easily and quickly portable. So they don't all have space around them to deal with, say, an 8-foot long workpiece, but most of the time they can be used right where they're at. And if I do need more space around them, they can quickly and easily be pulled out into the open space and used right there. So now when I assemble cabinets or other projects, I have lots of space to stack them up out of the way and it's not in the way of anything else. So then I still have full use of all my tools and my benches, even if the shop is filled up with assembled projects. Now similarly, I've left this space open at the wall beside the table saw so that when I have rips of sheet goods coming off the table saw, I can stack them up against the wall and they're out of the way and organized. The same as when I have finished project parts coming off the table saw being cross-cut, they can be stacked against the wall. Now, it was really tempting to set something up along this wall because it's a good wall space, but I know how important it is to have space to deal with project parts like that, that's somewhere that's not in the way of other things in the shop. So between the open space here and some open wall space there, it's a far more functional layout. So you might be saying to yourself, hey Dan, it's easy for you to talk about clear open space. Look at the size of the shop that you've got. A lot of you guys have commented about that in the shop tour that I did. And yes, it's true. I do have a good sized shop space here now, and I'm very thankful to have that. But if you look back to my previous shop, which you would all know well as the original DP Shop Talk shop, that was less than half this size, and I still put priority on keeping as much clear open space as I possibly could. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, that shop was a pretty good size too, I have a tiny little space and this just doesn't work for me. Well, take a look at the shop that I had in between my dream shop and the original DP Shop Talk shop. Now, this was a tiny corner of the basement of the house that we were renting at the time, and that was all the space that I had to work with. So even in that small space, I still put as much emphasis as I could on clear open space because I knew how valuable that was. Now, believe it or not, that shop was actually where the MPT was designed and built. It was the birthplace of the multi-purpose table. Now, I've made some compromises in this shop and in the original DP Shop Talk shop to make the clear open space work as well as it has. So things like my 8-inch jointer, my wall-mounted wood storage rack, and my lathe table, they've all stayed in storage for the last few years. I don't do as much work with solid wood as I used to, so I've kept them in storage rather than taking up space in the shop and diminishing my clear open space. Most of my work these days is with melamine and MDF, unfortunately. Not really as fun as solid wood, but that's the reality of keeping the bills paid and what the clients want. So similarly, things like my thickness planer, it used to have a stand that it sat on and was mobile around the shop, but that takes up floor space. So now I just keep it stored under my workbench, and if I need it, I can pull it out and use it on top of something else, and then it keeps it out of the way. So I have made compromises to make that work, but I know how important that is. Now, thinking back to my dream shop when I was designing and planning that out, I was so focused on the tools themselves and the layout of the tools, and that is important. It's a key component of shop layout, but I forgot about the space for the projects themselves and the project parts as they were being created. So seeing as the whole point of having a workshop is to create projects, then I would say that project space or that clear open space is pretty important. So that's a look at one of my top shop tips and the history behind it. Now, I realize that everybody works differently and has different shop and space requirements and different priorities for the types of projects that you work on, but I wanted to share this overall concept with you guys. Now, I've worked on a lot of different projects over the years and types of projects and in a lot of different shop spaces, and I've always found this clear open space concept to be important, both thinking back to the shop spaces before I learned it and in the shop spaces that I've had since I've learned it and implemented it in. Now, if you'd like to see more information on how I've set up this new shop, make sure you check out the full shop tour episode that I did if you haven't seen that already. I also talk about how I use the clear open space in the shop for automotive work and make the shop multi-purpose. Now, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? What are your shop experiences? Let me know down in the comments below. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, don't forget to hit that like button, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's always very much appreciated when you do. As always, make sure you leave your ideas, thoughts, and questions down in the comments below. So thanks for watching, and until next time, let's talk shop.